Okay, picture this. It's November 18th, 2025. You're just doing your thing online, browsing, working, scrolling through feeds. Everything feels totally normal. And then all of a sudden, it just isn't. On that day, for millions and millions of people, it felt like the internet itself just stumbled and fell flat on its face. So let's get into the anatomy of this massive global outage and see how one little hiccup brought a huge part of the web to its knees. You know, the French news outlets, I think they summed up the feeling perfectly with this one headline, Vent de panique sur Internet. If you translate that, it means a wave of panic on the internet. And that's exactly what it was, right? A sudden, really confusing digital silence that had everyone asking the same question, wait, is it just me or is everything broken? See, for most of us, this wasn't some abstract technical problem happening somewhere out there in a server farm. No, this was personal. This was the recipe site you needed for dinner that night, or the news feed you check every single morning, or the social media app you use to connect with everyone. They just stopped working. And we're not talking about some small, niche websites here. We are talking about major services. People trying to get to big sites like X, Feedly, even Down Detector, the site you go to check if other sites are down. They were all hitting a wall. Either the page would load incredibly slowly, you'd get these weird errors, or just a completely blank screen. For a little while, the digital world had this huge, gaping hole in it. So what on earth was the common thread here? How could all these different sites go down at the exact same time? Well, the answer comes down to a single company. A company that, honestly, most of us have probably never even heard of, but one that a massive chunk of the internet literally depends on every single day. That company is Cloudflare. Think of them as the invisible backbone of the web. So what do they do? Well, in simple terms, Cloudflare is like a combination of a super fast highway, a top-notch security guard, and an express delivery service, all rolled into one for websites. They make sites load way faster, and they protect them from cyber attacks. A huge percentage of the global web uses their services, which is exactly why when Cloudflare has a bad day, the entire internet feels the shockwave. So while all of us were out here panicking and refreshing our browsers, a totally different kind of drama was playing out inside Cloudflare. Their engineers were in an all-out scramble, a race against the clock to figure out what was wrong and fix a problem that was impacting their entire global network. So let's take a look at how it all went down, minute by agonizing minute. Okay, so at 11:48 Universal Time, the first official alert goes out, the dreaded investigating. You can just imagine the alarms going off. Then, 33 minutes later, at 12:21, we see a glimmer of hope, services recovering. Okay, they're making progress, but error rates are still high. It's not over. At 13:04, they make a tactical move, disabling a service in London to try and stop the bleeding. And then, just 5 minutes later, boom, the breakthrough. Identified. They've found the bug. A fix is rolling out. But that still leaves a huge question, right? How could a single problem, one bug, cause such a massive worldwide disruption? I mean, really, how is that possible? To get that, you really have to wrap your head around the absolutely mind-boggling scale of the network we're talking about here. So what you're seeing scroll by right now, this is just a little taste of Cloudflare's data centers all over the globe. We're talking Johannesburg to Jakarta, Montreal to Mumbai, Santiago to Singapore, and on and on. This isn't just some list of cities. It's basically a map of the internet's most critical infrastructure. Every single one of these points is a node in this gigantic web, all built for speed and reliability. Now here's where it gets really telling. Take a look at this chart showing the status during the outage. Just look down that right-hand column. Africa, partial outage. Asia, partial outage. Europe, Latin America, the Middle East, North America, Oceania. Every single continent was hit. This was not a localized glitch. This right here shows you, clear as day, how one company's single point of failure became the entire world's problem. And that, of course, brings us to the really big, kind of scary question that an event like this forces all of us to think about. You know, as the internet has grown up, we've started to lean really heavily on a handful of these massive, powerful companies to keep everything running. But what does that actually mean for the health and stability of the web as a whole? When you really step back and look at it, this whole incident highlights a huge paradox. We've built this amazing digital world that's incredibly resilient in so many ways. But maybe, just maybe, it's become dangerously fragile in others. So when one company's internal problem can cause a literal wave of global panic, you have to ask the question,
Has the internet become too centralized for its own good? Something to think about.